The next day, Mark walked into the company office with heavy steps, his palms damp with sweat. Every sound echoed too loudly in his ears, the click of heels on marble floors, the low hum of distant conversations, the soft ding of the elevator closing behind him. He was certain this was it. In his mind, the decision had already been made. He had missed the interview. He had chosen to help a stranger instead of chasing his last chance at stability. Rejection felt inevitable. The receptionist gave him a polite smile and pointed him toward the executive conference room. His chest tightened as he pushed open the tall glass door. Inside, the CEO stood near the window, her back turned, hands folded behind her. The city skyline stretched behind her like a painting, cold and distant. Mark swallowed hard. This was not how he imagined his future would look. When she turned around, her gaze locked onto his. Instead of the cold, professional expression he expected, her eyes were glossy, filled with something he couldn't immediately understand. Emotion, strong, quiet emotion. "Please sit down, Mark," she said softly. He obeyed, his legs feeling weak beneath him. The silence stretched between them like a tight rope. He braced himself for the words he was certain were coming. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." His hands curled into fists on his knees. Then the CEO stood up slowly. Mark's heart dropped. She took a breath, as if steadying herself, and said in a low, controlled voice, "Yesterday, you helped my mother when no one else did." The words hit him like a shockwave. He stared at her, confused, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Your mother?" he whispered. She nodded. "The elderly woman at the bus stop. The one who collapsed. The one you stayed with when you were supposed to be here for your interview." Realization rushed over him all at once. The trembling hands, the labored breathing, the way she had looked at him with pure fear in her eyes, clutching his sleeve as he called for help. Mark felt his throat tighten. I didn't even know who she was," he said quietly. "And that," the CEO replied, her voice breaking slightly, "is exactly why this matters." She walked closer and placed a small folder on the table between them. "My mother told me everything. How you stayed when everyone else walked past. How you gave up your interview without once asking who she was or what it might cost you. She said you treated her like she mattered." Mark lowered his head, feeling a strange mix of embarrassment and emotion. "I just did what anyone should do." A sad smile touched the CEO's lips. "Most people don't." There was another pause. Then she looked at him straight in the eyes and said, "You thought you lost this job opportunity because of that choice." Mark nodded slowly. "You didn't lose it," she said firmly. "You proved you deserved it." His breath caught in his chest. She slid the folder toward him. Inside was an official offer. Only now, the position was higher than the one he had originally applied for. Better pay, better hours, a future he had barely dared to imagine. Mark's vision blurred as he realized the truth. The moment he thought had ruined his life had, instead, quietly transformed it. Mark felt the world tilt slightly beneath his feet as the truth settled into his chest. The elderly woman, the fragile stranger he had helped at the bus stop, the one whose shaking hands he had held. While waiting for the ambulance, she was the CEO's mother. The reality didn't feel real at first. It echoed in his mind like a distant sound, hollow and unreal. He blinked, certain he had misunderstood. But the CEO's steady gaze told him everything he needed to know. For a moment, Mark couldn't speak. His throat was dry, his thoughts tangled. Images flooded back the woman's pale face, the shallow breaths, the fear in her eyes as she had whispered, "Don't leave me." He remembered how he had stayed beside her without hesitation, ignoring the time, ignoring the interview, ignoring everything but the human being in front of him who needed help. "I didn't know," he said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. "I swear, I had no idea who she was." The CEO nodded. "She told me that. She said you never once asked her name, never once tried to impress her. You just stayed?" Mark exhaled slowly, his shoulders finally dropping as the weight of the last 24 hours pressed down on him. All night he had imagined worst-case scenarios, eviction notices, empty cupboards. His son's disappointed eyes. Every fear had grown larger in the darkness. And now he was sitting here, discovering that the moment he believed had destroyed his future had, in fact, protected it. You know, the CEO continued, walking slowly behind her desk, my mother has met powerful people her entire life, politicians, executives, wealthy investors. But she rarely talks about any of them the way she talked about you. She paused and looked back at him. She said you treated her like she was invisible and priceless at the same time. Mark swallowed hard. He had been so certain the job was gone, late for the interview. No explanation that would sound good enough. In his mind, the decision had already been made for him. He had chosen kindness over career, and he was ready to pay for it. That acceptance had been painful, but it had also been strangely peaceful. He had told himself some losses were worth it. I was ready to walk away, he admitted quietly. I thought I had ruined everything. The CEO shook her head. You didn't ruin anything? Mark, you revealed who you are when no reward was promised. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a single document, sliding it across the desk toward him. The job you thought you lost was never gone, she said. It was only delayed. Mark stared at the paper without touching it at first. His fingers trembled as he finally reached out. The words blurred as his eyes filled. It wasn't just the job, it was the future tied to it. Stability, dignity, a fresh start. In that quiet office, between disbelief and gratitude, Mark understood something that would stay with him forever. Sometimes the doors that seem to close forever are only waiting for the right reason to open. The CEO looked at Mark for a long moment, as if weighing something far beyond resume interviews. Then she straightened, her voice calm but firm. The original position you applied for is no longer the right fit for you, she said. Mark's heart sank for a split second until she continued. I'm offering you a higher position, better pay. Full benefits, stable hours. She slid a new folder across the desk. You won't just survive here, Mark. You'll grow. His breath caught painfully in his chest. For a moment, he couldn't even move. The numbers on the salary line looked unreal, like something meant for someone else. Someone stronger, someone luckier, someone who hadn't spent years barely keeping the lights on. His fingers trembled as he touched the edge of the paper, afraid it might vanish if he didn't move carefully. I don't understand, he said quietly. I missed the interview. I broke the rules. The CEO shook her head. You followed a better one. She leaned back against her desk. Every day, this company makes decisions based on profit, performance, and pressure. But yesterday, you made a decision based on character. And that's something I can't teach. Mark's vision blurred. He pictured his son asleep at home, his small chest rising and falling beneath an old blanket. He thought of overdue bills, the eviction warning taped to his door, the constant ache of uncertainty. All of that, every fear that had ruled his life for months, suddenly felt lighter. I didn't help her for a reward, he said. I know, the CEO replied softly. That's why you earned one. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It felt warm, healing. Mark signed the papers with shaking hands. Each stroke of his name felt like he was rewriting his destiny. When he finally looked up, the CEO had extended her hand. Welcome to your future, she said. He stood and shook it, his chest tight with emotion. Thank you, he whispered. The words felt too small for what he was feeling. As he walked out of the office moments later, the hallway seemed brighter than before. The same walls, the same floors, but everything felt different. For the first time in years, he wasn't walking under the weight of fear, he was walking with hope. Outside the building, Mark stopped on the steps and let the cool air hit his face. He looked up at the sky and exhaled slowly. Somewhere across the city, an elderly woman was recovering in a warm hospital bed. Somewhere across town, his son was waiting for him to come home. And without realizing it, one small act of kindness a few minutes at a bus stop, a phone call for help, a refusal to walk away had quietly reshaped his entire life. Mark hadn't chased success that day. He had chosen humanity, and humanity had given him everything back.